Kofi, a young man seeking solace after his father's recent passing, arrived at a remote cabin in a Ghanaian village near Akosombo late in the evening. The dense forest surrounding the cabin was eerily quiet, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth. He had chosen this place for its isolation, hoping to escape the weight of his grief. As he unpacked, the sky churned with dark clouds, promising a storm. That night, a fierce storm broke, with wind rattling the cabin's wooden frame and thunder shaking the walls. Kofi lay in bed, memories of his father flooding his mind, when a frantic pounding at the door startled him. At first, he thought it was the storm, but the knocks grew desperate, almost violent. Cautiously, he opened the door to find a woman drenched from head to toe, her clothes torn and streaked with mud. Her eyes were wide with panic. "My brother," she gasped, "we crashed by the river. He's hurt, please, help." Without hesitation, Kofi grabbed a flashlight and followed her into the rain-soaked night. They reached a mangled car by the Volta River, its front crumpled against a tree. Inside, a man lay slumped, blood trickling from a gash on his temple. Kofi's heart raced as he helped the woman pull the man from the wreckage. They carried him back to the cabin, where Kofi cleaned and bandaged the wound as best he could. The woman, now in dry clothes borrowed from Kofi, sat silently, her hands trembling. Over cups of tea, Kofi asked how the accident happened. Her story was vague. She mentioned visiting family, but her details shifted, her eyes darting nervously. Exhausted, she excused herself to check on her brother, leaving Kofi alone in the dimly lit living room. Hours later, Kofi awoke on the couch to the sensation of someone watching him. The injured man stood over him, his face pale, eyes unblinking. Before Kofi could speak, the man pressed a finger to his lips and whispered, "She's not my sister." Kofi's blood ran cold. "Call the police," the man urged, his voice shaking. "She's dangerous." Kofi grabbed his phone, but the storm had killed the signal. The man whispered that she carried a knife and had attacked him before the crash. They needed to escape, but Kofi's car keys were in the bedroom where the woman slept. Heart pounding, Kofi crept into the bedroom. The woman lay still, her breathing steady, but a glint of metal caught his eye, a knife on the bedside table, inches from her hand. Holding his breath, he reached for the keys, his fingers brushing the cold metal. The floor creaked, and she stirred, muttering something incoherent. Kofi froze, but she didn't wake. He snatched the keys and backed out, signaling the man to follow. They bolted into the storm, the rain swallowing their footsteps as they reached Kofi's car. The drive to the nearest police post was a blur, the man trembling beside him, muttering about her lies. At the police post, the man gave a frantic statement, claiming the woman was a fugitive who'd lured him into the forest. Officers returned to the cabin, but the woman was gone. The only evidence was a blood-stained knife and a shattered teacup. The police identified her as a wanted drifter, known for preying on travelers. Kofi, shaken, was told he was lucky to have escaped. Days later, as he reflected on the ordeal, he found a crumpled note in his jacket pocket, written in unfamiliar handwriting, "You should have stayed." Weeks later, Kofi, still haunted, decided to face his fears with a solo hike in the hills near Akosombo. He set up camp on a cliff overlooking the Volta, the starry sky calming his nerves. By midnight, he was asleep in his tent, dreaming of the sunrise. At 3:17 a.m., voices woke him, a man and a woman, their words sharp and urgent. "We should have burned it," the woman hissed. "Too risky," the man replied. Kofi peered through a slit in his tent and saw them dragging a heavy sack toward the cliff's edge. "He's gone now," the man said, "one push, and it's over." Frozen with terror, Kofi realized they were disposing of a body. When the woman's eyes scanned the trees, he ducked, his heart thundering. A twig snapped nearby, and he knew he'd been heard. Grabbing his keys, he slipped out of the tent and hid behind a rock. As the couple heaved the sack over the cliff, Kofi bolted, sprinting through the forest. Flashlights flickered behind him, the woman's voice calling, "We can explain." A sharp pain grazed his arm, a thrown stone, maybe, but he kept running, diving into a ditch as their footsteps passed. Limping and bleeding, Kofi reached his car at dawn, the sunrise mocking his terror. As he fumbled with the keys, a face pressed against the window, the man from the cliff, blood on his hands, a calm smile on his face. "You saw nothing," he said softly. Kofi started the car, tires screeching as he sped away. At the ranger station, he spilled the story, but a search found only his slashed tent and drag marks near the cliff. No body, no suspects, no answers. Hoping for closure, Kofi took a bus to a nearby village to inquire about local legends. At a guest house, an elderly couple, Mr. and Mrs. Teta, welcomed him with their quiet grandson, Kojo. The house felt off, no clocks, no mirrors, just the faint smell of decay. At dinner, Mrs. Teta's constant humming unnerved Kofi, and Kojo's empty stare seemed to follow him. After dinner, she handed him a cup of herbal tea. "Rest well," she said, her smile too wide. That night, Kofi woke to chanting. Peering through the keyhole, he saw the Tetas circling Kojo, smearing ash on his face, their voices low and rhythmic. When Mrs. Teta's eyes flicked toward the door, Kofi held his breath. The next day, the village was deserted, shuttered windows, no children, no life. In his room, Kofi found a hidden drawer with faded photos of travelers, their faces growing distorted in each image. The last photo showed Mrs. Teta, her eyes black, with the words, "We carry them all," scrawled beneath. That night, Kofi dreamt of Kojo standing over him, his face wrong, 2 mouths, 3 eyes. Waking in a sweat, he saw muddy footprints on his floor. The chanting started again, louder, pulling him outside. Behind the house, villagers stood in a circle of torches, Kojo limp in the center. Mrs. Teta pointed at Kofi. Kofi's heart pounded as he crept closer, hiding in the shadows. Mrs. Teta's voice rose, "His strength is ours. Bring him." Hands seized him, dragging him into the circle. Mr. Teta smeared ash across Kofi's face, whispering, "One carries, one fates." Kofi's limbs grew heavy, his vision blurring as Kojo's hollow eyes met his. A voice in his head hissed, "Join us." But Kojo's trembling hand brushed his, sparking a surge of defiance. Kofi kicked over a torch, flames scattering. Chaos erupted, and he ran, the villagers' screams echoing behind him. Stumbling through the forest, Kofi's lungs burned. Headlights pierced the darkness, a delivery truck. He collapsed against it, gasping, "Help me." The driver, wide-eyed, sped him to a hospital. Kofi's story poured out, but the police found no trace of the Tetas or Kojo in the village. "That family died years ago," an officer said, skeptical. Alone in his hospital room, Kofi checked his phone. A single photo remained, a selfie, his face half merged with Kojo's, an extra eye blinking on his cheek. Now, when he looks in the mirror, something else stares back.